She asked the human to remove her armor so she could breathe. The mining station orbited the dead world of Kepler 442c, where the air was thin and the gravity was crushing. Commander Elena Vasquez had been stationed there for 3 months overseeing the extraction operations when the distress signal came through. A damaged alien vessel had crashed, landed on the surface, and the pilot was barely alive. Elena suited up and took the rescue shuttle down to the crash site. The wreckage was scattered across a rocky plateau, and smoke was still rising from the twisted metal. She found the pilot trapped in the cockpit of what appeared to be a sleek fighter craft. The being was humanoid, but clearly not human, with pale blue skin and elongated limbs that seemed too delicate for the heavy combat armor she wore. The alien's breathing was labored, and her large violet eyes showed signs of distress. Elena worked quickly to extract her from the wreckage using the shuttle's cutting tools. The pilot was conscious but weak, and kept pointing to her chest plate while making gasping motions. Elena assumed she was having trouble breathing, and carefully loaded her into the shuttle's medical bay. Back at the mining station, Elena placed the alien in the medical facility's isolation chamber. The station's doctor was away on leave, so Elena had to rely on the automated systems and her basic medical training. The alien's vital signs were erratic, and she kept gesturing frantically at her armor. Elena realized the pilot was trying to communicate something urgent about the protective suit she wore. Using the universal translator, Elena finally understood what the alien was saying. Her name was Lyra, and she was a warrior from the Altarian Federation. The armor she wore was a mechanical life support system that was malfunctioning after the crash. It was supposed to regulate her breathing and circulation, but instead it was slowly crushing her internal organs. Elena studied the alien armor with growing concern. The technology was far beyond anything humans had developed. The suit seemed to be fused with Lyra's body at several connection points, and removing it would require delicate surgery. Elena had never performed such a procedure, especially on an alien physiology she didn't understand. Lyra's condition was deteriorating rapidly. The armor systems were failing, and the pressure it was applying to her torso was increasing. Elena could see the panic in the alien's eyes as she struggled to breathe. The universal translator conveyed Lyra's desperate plea for Elena to remove the armor before it killed her. Elena knew she had to act fast. She studied the armor's design and found what appeared to be release mechanisms at the joints. But the system was locked and required specific biometric codes that only Lyra could provide. The problem was that Lyra was becoming too weak to activate the release sequence properly. Working together, Elena guided Lyra's hand to the various control panels on the armor. Each touch activated different systems, but none seemed to trigger the main release. Elena noticed that the armor was responding to Lyra's emotional state as much as her physical commands. When Lyra was calm, the system stabilized, but when she panicked, they became more restrictive. Elena realized she needed to keep Lyra calm and focused. She sat beside the alien and spoke in soothing tones while helping her navigate the armor's complex interface. Slowly, they began to understand the logic behind the biomechanical system. The armor was designed to protect its wearer, but it also required complete trust and cooperation to function properly. The breakthrough came when Elena discovered that the armor was designed for two-person operation. It needed both the wearer and a trusted partner to activate the emergency release. This was a safety feature to prevent enemies from forcibly removing a warrior's protection. Elena placed her hand on the designated panel while Lyra activated her side of the sequence. The armor began to unlock with a series of soft clicks and hissing sounds. Elena carefully began removing the chest plate while monitoring Lyra's vital signs. The alien's breathing immediately improved as the pressure was relieved, but Elena realized this was only the beginning. The armor was integrated with Lyra's circulatory system, and removing it completely would be a delicate process. Elena worked methodically to disconnect the various tubes and cables that linked the armor to Lyra's body. Each connection had to be sealed properly to prevent bleeding or other complications. The universal translator helped Elena understand Lyra's instructions about which systems were most critical and which could be safely disconnected. As more of the armor was removed, Elena began to see the extent of Lyra's injuries from the crash. The alien warrior had multiple fractures and internal bleeding that the armor had been compensating for. Without the suit's life support, Lyra would need immediate medical attention that the mining station's limited facilities might not be able to provide. Elena made the difficult decision to contact the Altarian Federation directly. She sent a message through the diplomatic channels explaining the situation and requesting immediate medical assistance. The response came within hours. A Federation medical ship was already en route to recover their lost pilot. While they waited for the rescue ship, Elena did everything she could to keep Lyra stable. She had successfully removed most of the armor, but the alien's condition remained critical. Elena stayed by Lyra's side, monitoring her vital signs and providing what comfort she could. Despite the language barrier and their different species, Elena felt a connection forming with the wounded warrior. Lyra used the translator to tell Elena about her people and their ongoing conflict with a hostile alien empire. The armor Elena had removed was a prototype designed for deep space combat. Lyra had been testing it when her ship was attacked and she was forced to land on the mining world. She expressed gratitude for Elena's help and courage in attempting such a dangerous procedure. The Federation medical ship arrived 2 days later. The alien medical team was amazed that a human with no knowledge of Altarian physiology had successfully removed the biomechanical armor. They told Elena that few of their own doctors would have attempted such a procedure without proper training and equipment. Lyra made a full recovery thanks to Elena's intervention. Before leaving, she presented Elena with a small crystalline device that she said would allow them to communicate across the galaxy. She explained that Elena had not only saved her life, but had also proven that humans and Altarians could work together despite their differences. The incident had broader implications for human-alien relations. The Federation had been reluctant to establish formal diplomatic ties with humanity, but Elena's actions demonstrated human compassion and ingenuity. Within months, the first cultural exchange program was established between Earth and the Altarian worlds. Elena returned to Earth as a hero, but she remained humble about her role in the rescue. She often said that any human would have done the same thing when faced with another being in distress. Crystalline Communicator allowed her to stay in touch with Lyra, who had become a respected ambassador for human-Altarian cooperation. Years later, when historians wrote about the first contact between humans and the Altarian Federation, they would point to that moment in the mining station's medical bay. A human woman removing alien armor to save a warrior's life had changed the course of interstellar relations forever. The simple act of helping someone breathe had opened the door to a new era of cooperation and understanding between species. Elena's willingness to risk everything to save a stranger had proven that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or military might but their capacity for empathy and compassion. This story became legend among both humans and Altarians. Children learned about the human who removed the armor and the warrior who trusted her life to an alien stranger. It reminded both species that despite their differences, they shared the same fundamental desire to help others in need. Elena continued her work as a mining engineer, but she also became an unofficial ambassador between the two species. She helped establish the protocols for human-Altarian medical cooperation and trained the first generation of interspecies medical technicians. Her actions had created a lasting bond between two civilizations that would endure for generations to come. The armor that Elena had removed was eventually displayed in the Federation's Museum of Interspecies Cooperation. A plaque beside it told the story of the human engineer who had saved an alien warrior's life by simply helping her breathe. It served as a reminder that sometimes the greatest acts of heroism come from the most basic human instincts of compassion and care for others in need.